The night sky feels as though it has never been darker. The fleeting hope of vengeance compelling me, I will attempt to recollect myself and resume my chase. But what is it that I am chasing? Am I chasing anything at all, or am I simply drowning myself in revenge to avoid the horrifying truth? I've lost the only thing that made me feel truly alive. Are my hands responsible? Are his? Who was he? Who was this madman that stood before me tonight? I swear I've seen his face before. I know I've seen his face before. The sun began to set, the color smeared into the blue horizon. I walked down the roads, twisting and turning. As the moon rose, I could hear Annabelle's voice calling my name. Her face was stuck in my mind, and I screamed. Everywhere I turned, everywhere I'd run, she was always in front of me, chasing me, haunting me, bringing the painful memories of her death back into my life. I started losing my self-indulgence. I started to think about the first time we had met, the very first time that I told her I loved her. I thought of her smile, then the memories seemed to usher back into my mind. The grass was tall. We pranced around the train tracks and laughed. We were talking about life, the stories of our past scattered through the silence. The sun was shining bright on Annabelle's beautiful face. Her long blonde hair was down past her shoulders. Her beautiful brown eyes sparkled in the light. Her smile was breathtaking, impossible to describe other than perfect. Her soft and gentle hand brushed against the palm of mine as she twined her fingers through mine. We kept walking and talked about more, and finally we reached the end of our town. Slow seemed so perfect. I laughed at myself, and she looked in my eyes as she did. It felt as though she was looking into my soul. I love you, I whispered silently in her ear, just barely loud enough for her to hear. As memories returned to mind, I scrambled towards home. I ran through town, seeing her reflection. A silhouette was all that was left, dancing in the windows of the shops. I raced through the night, trying to beat the sunlight. Finally, I saw the familiar small house. The door was open from when I rushed away the night before. I stumbled toward the porch. A tall, slender figure stood before me on the steps, and I laughed. In his hand, he held the same knife, still freshly covered with Annabelle's blood. I gasped, staring at the man. It was the same madman who was glaring at me before. I was sure of it. I've been expecting you for some time, sir. Allow me to introduce myself. His voice was deep. A slight growl seemed to slip through his throat. I am the one who pulls on all the strings, son. You're lucky I don't kill you where you stand. He mused and rocked back on his heels. This can't be real. Nothing is left. And Annabelle's gone. This man is the one who killed her. I know it was him. He laughed and his eyes locked onto mine. The pain hit me once more. I felt my stomach churn and tighten. They call me a thespian. He took a step down and glared at me once more. Suddenly he ran into the light. The urge to follow was strong, yet for some reason I just stood perfectly still, trying to think about what just happened. The dizziness stuns me. Would someone please distract me? Can I really get through this? Can I really betray myself? For better, for worse, remember, forever. I walked back to the town as the lack of emotions poured through my body and mind. Apathy began to take over my body as I stumbled over my own feet. If she's gone, what do I have left? I don't have anything without her. She was all that I ever loved. She was the only one. She still is. I forced myself to think about her. I thought about where I had first told her I loved her, and the very last time I had said those words to her. Without my vengeance, my anger and my insanity, and without my Annabelle coming back from her grave, I started to think. I thought of ways to end my own life and join her in death. I stumbled into an alley and alleyway and fell. I sighed and pulled myself up slowly and was on my knees. I gazed up to the sky, pulling the knife from my pocket. I placed the blade to my throat, knowing that I wanted to end my life. But before I could, I thought more about it. Women will shriek and watch their husbands bleed. Children will cry and watch their mothers die. Because tonight we all go to hell. I pushed the knife down against my skin. A deep sorrow began to sink in my heart as I let the tears stream down my face. I started to think about what I was doing once more. But suddenly, I saw a silhouette stand in front of me. Long hair and dark eyes looked just like Annabelle's. Dead girls just don't appear out of thin air. I could smell something being cooked. I heard gentle footsteps on a solid wooden floor, and I knew I was not where I had passed out. I looked around and sat up. The bed I was laying on now was soft, the blankets of the purest white. I thought about where I was for a moment, then I remembered the girl in the alley. It was Annabelle. It was her. I thought about it more, but the girl couldn't have been Annabelle. I placed my hand down and felt something rough. I looked at it and noticed it was a piece of paper. I picked up the paper, and on it, someone had scribbled a few words. Come downstairs for a meal. I got up after reading it and fixed my shirt that was still tainted with blood. I walked down the steps and heard something metal clang together. I jumped a little nervous and sighed, holding down onto the railing of the stairs. I'm over here, a woman's voice called from the other room. I took a step towards her voice and bit my lip. I walked in the room, saw a girl in a white dress. She had her hair pulled up in a bow, and she was cooking food. Have a seat, and don't be so worried. She turned and glanced at me. Her pale skin glistened in the sunlight, her dark brown eyes same as Annabelle's. She looked so much like her, I almost screamed. It's not her, it can't be. I swear it's not. She finished cooking and sat next to me after placing the food on the table. I wasn't very hungry, but I knew I had to eat. Who is this girl? I kept pondering on the possibility of her being alive. It seemed impossible. I ate a little bit of bread that she had made. The taste of food made my mouth water with each bite. It reminded me of Annabelle's cooking. For 7 years I was with her, and for 7 years she was the only one that mattered to me. The girl got up and led me outside. I smiled a little bit and we wandered towards the railroad tracks that were just beyond her property. As we walked, we talked about everything. She told me about her life, I told her about mine, and I told her about Annabelle. We stopped by the tracks and she looked at me. I smiled and gazed up into her eyes. They felt like they were looking into my soul, but yet it felt peaceful. We stood perfectly still. Her hand was placed gently in mine. I leaned down closer to her face and I could feel her cool breath against my lips. The beating in my chest grew stronger. My lips touched hers and suddenly I opened my eyes. A grinding pain grew on the side of my face. The taste of dirt in my mouth was plain as my teeth sunk down in my tongue. My heart slowed as I put my hands out in front of me, pushing myself back up. I sat silently in the darkness, the light just barely trickling through the alley. Awakened from my dream, the pain started to sink back into my heart. She's gone. I had to keep reminding myself that it was true. Her death did happen. I don't understand. I sighed and stood up, walking clumsily under the daylight.